a kind of very simple issue. There are statements we make about reality. We say that something is beautiful, something is ugly, something makes sense, something doesn't make sense, something is good, something is bad, and so on and so forth. You know, we do that all the time. We make statements about reality. We say a thing is good, we say a thing is bad. But the reality of it is this. Whatever statements we make about reality really are thoughts. It's words, it's language. It becomes the issue of language. Language is kind of like a medium between things. It's a medium between reality and ourselves. There is ourselves and there is reality. And that medium is language. It's what we use to communicate. That thing, that creates a kind of distortion. I shouldn't even say kind of. It creates a distortion. It creates a distortion. If we could quiet our minds, and I think this is one of the reasons why meditation is such a good thing. If we can quiet our minds and just experience ourselves in the midst of reality, we become at one with the reality. The self and reality become one. You become expanded beyond the boundaries. When you have language, you kind of contract things because you live in a world of symbols and representations. You live in a world of symbols and representations. And you start to think that the world of symbols and the world of representations is reality. I think that, and I don't remember the writer's name, but it's the guy who made the philosophical thing about something, and I don't even remember. I'm sorry, I actually am kind of ignorant on this, but I do know that this was kind of the basis for the movie The Matrix. It was this whole concept of how we live in a world of symbols and representations and things representing things. And that's one of the things about religion. You know, you got the cross. You got the church. You got all these words such as holy and sacred and faith and, you know, salvation and damnation and all these things. These are just symbols that represent things. And we start to take these symbols that represent things for things themselves. And we get confused because we don't see reality for what it is. But when you get to a point of meditating, I mean true meditation, of clearing your mind, you experience reality, true reality. You get into the world of pure experience. You know, I think about William James, and he talked about this thing about pure experience. Instead of experiencing just the symbols. You know, one of the things that the Buddhists say is, do not mistake the finger pointing at the moon for the moon. And I believe that what that means is that we shouldn't mistake symbols or representations of things for things themselves. That's why, you know, when you get into the Zen way of looking at things, you don't really have a sort of dogma. Because what happens with dogma and with certain doctrines and things like that, you start to become distracted because you must follow the dogma. You must follow the doctrines. You must follow the teachings. And then that distracts you from reality. You don't see reality anymore. You just see what you're supposed to do. You see the rituals. You see the ceremonies. You see the traditions. And that blinds you from reality. Reality is not a tradition. Think about it. Reality isn't a tradition. And yet that is what you want to get to. I've learned at times to quiet my mind, to just simply stop thinking about things and just experience things. Think about the moments where you have what Maslow would refer to as peak experiences. Those are moments when you are totally living in the present moment. I would recommend to anybody, by the way, you get this book called, there's several books that Maslow wrote, and there's one called Religion, Values, and Peak Experiences. Beautiful book. Wonderful book on that whole topic about peak experiences. And another book called The Further Reaches of Human Nature. I strongly recommend those books. And it talks about it talks about self-actualization and all of the things that Maslow talks about, but about those experiences that are called the mystical experiences. Maslow really tried to look at this stuff from a scientific perspective, and I think that, I think that was a great thing he was doing, looking at those experiences, because those experiences are important. They're important. They're an important part of being human and an important part of psychological health. This is not sort of advocating belief in God. And it's not I'm not advocating atheism either. But it's just looking at the mystical or transcendent experience. One of the things that Maslow wanted to do, and I agree with his attempt, was to take the religious words out of it and to look at it scientifically. It's quite a challenge to do. But I think that that's one of the ways you can look at these things. See, to get into the world, and to get into the world of the real, you have to get past the world of symbols. You have to get past the world of doctrines. You have to get past the world of dogma. You have to get past the traditions and really see reality for what it is. Now, all of us have moments that he talked about, the peak experience moments. We all have those moments. Sometimes it could be when you're listening to music or when you're involved in certain activities. And he'll talk about that in the books. If you read the books, you'll understand. Sometimes it can happen in a sexual experience. When you totally let go, when you totally surrender, and you kind of just transcend yourself. You have this experience of reality in its pure form, without the veils, without the things covering reality. You experience reality for what it is. And then you can come back to the other world, the world of symbols and everything else, and you can see those things in perspective. That yes, they have a place in the world, but you realize that they are not themselves reality. For a lot of religious people, and a lot of even non-religious people, there are lots of symbols that we take those symbols, those words, those ideals, those thoughts, as if they were reality. And we wind up being thrown off balance. We're thrown off balance. But if you get into reality, use meditation, you get back into balance. You see things for what they are. That's the value of meditation. That's all I have to say for right now. I'll probably write, not write. I will talk more about this later. I'm also going to write about this stuff too, which I do a lot of writing.